Based on assessment of all available information and following several expert consultations, I have decided to raise the current level of influenza pandemic alert from phase 4 to phase 5.
As a normal flu, which is 0.6%, that would mean that more than 12 million people could die. Do you agree with that estimate?
No, I think the estimated death from seasonal influenza is lower than that. If you look at the data coming from places such as the United States, which has several decades of data on death estimates. But I think the concept is right. You know, if you take approximately 2 billion people, which would be a third of the 6 billion people, it just means that if you have a virus which is capable of leading to serious illnesses, again, you can have very large numbers of people getting sick, requiring hospitalizations.
The most basic of pagan practices is the control of human population to have a perfect balance between man and nature. The goal is to bring the population down to 500 million, which is over a 90% reduction in humanity.
Let me assure you that absolutely nothing that I'm going to tell you is exaggerated, is interpolated, or is imagined. Everything I'm going to tell you is documented. He who controls food controls the world. Well, they said in 1962, we're going to work toward total global implementation of Codex Alimentarius on December 31st, 2009. There were sort of guidelines. Now, Codex Alimentarius Commission is administered by the World Health Organization, WHO, and the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization. They fund Codex and they run it at the request of the UN. So they're mommy and daddy to Codex Alimentarius. In 1994, Codex, with no notice here in this country whatsoever, declared nutrients, put on your intellectual seatbelts, declared nutrients to be toxins. They're poisons. Under Codex, every dairy cow on the planet must be treated with Monsanto's recombinant bovine growth hormone. Furthermore, under Codex, every animal used for food on the planet must be treated with subclinical antibiotics and must be treated with exogenous growth hormones. If you do the numbers in the WHO-FAO projections, the epidemiological projections, they estimate, not I, that just the vitamin and mineral guideline alone, when it goes into global implementation on December 31st, 2009, will result in a minimum of 3 billion, that's B, bad, big, billion deaths. 1 billion through simple starvation. Those folks who die are not particularly economically successful from the point of view of the corporations, but the next 2 billion, they will die from the preventable diseases of undernutrition.
We're talking to Jane Lesko today, who is a very proficient researcher in her own right, and she got upset when somebody came to her door and said, I need the GPS of your door. Now, before anybody asked the question, maybe we should have identified what GPS means. Global Positioning System. That means we can look down from the sky and tell where your front door is by the coordinates. We can put in those coordinates, and it'll bring up on our computer your front door. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, why would they want that? Well, we'll talk about that in just a second. But we identified the 3 corporations that are working with this, the Michael Baker Corporation, Harris Corporation, and Law Enforcement Associates Corporation. Now, let's go on past this, and we've got a whole bunch of callers that are that called in anyway, so we'll get to those in just a second. But where do we go from here on this, Jane?
Well, I was going to tell you another little situation. I have a friend that has a P.O. box. She does not have, she lives further up in the mountains here, and they do not have a place to mail, any mail sent to their home. They don't even have a box anywhere on their street. And they have to GPS their house, too.
Oh, so it's not really for what we say it's for what we want it to be for.
Right.
Okay. All right, so now all of this, we take all this information together, the military and law enforcement are behind it, the Census Bureau's lying to you, it's not part of the 2010 census. Now, what does all of this mean?
Well, we've talked to different ones that were in the military, and they're concerned that the military would be the only one that would really need this information.
Okay, so this is a military maneuver when you start talking in terms of coordinates, as they said. This seems to be something to do with the military. Has anybody speculated what it might be for?
Roundup.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what the military is telling you?
No, that's what those that are in the military, yes, that they believe that could possibly be. I'm not going to say any names on the radio, but
sure.
Yeah, they're concerned about that. And the possibility, when they hear this, the possibility of something being shot to your door like these lasers from the satellite that they can do now.
About a year and a half to 2 years ago, we started being contacted by FEMA saying, you've got to put some plans together. The first plans had to do with, the reason was avian flu. Now, I don't know. My brother's a doctor, and a couple hundred people around the world have died from bird flu. It's not really a serious threat right now, unless they know something that we don't. But the point is, we were to put together a plan to vaccinate every person in county within 48 hours.
You're kidding me, wow.
And then that plan has to be practiced 2 or 3 times. I mean, literally, we've gotten every police officer we can, and buses and volunteers, and set it up. And logistically, it's just really not possible to do. I mean, we've run through this thing 100 times in our heads, and several times dry runs. It's just not logistically possible. But the point is, they want to be able to vaccinate people very fast for some reason. It might be bird flu, but my brother's saying that bird flu really is an event right now, unless they know something we don't know. Then the sheriff's department started getting long questionnaires. I got one myself. I didn't fill it out, but lots of questions. What kind of resources do we have? What kind of how many officers? What can we handle? What are you going to do if Chicago has an emergency and you have 400,000 people heading into your county? Where can you put mass graves? We need to know spaces of mass graves. How many can you handle? Can you handle bodies from surrounding counties and those types of things? And we're going, what the heck are you guys talking about? Tell us what's going on. Hold up, and nothing's going on. We're just contingency plans. If something ever happens, they just really need to know how to handle things. And then I was contacted by Homeland Security through what they've got. What we have to do is have what is called a hazard mitigation plan. All right, well, that sounds good. And what they're saying is FEMA is saying that disasters are costing them too much money. So we've got to have a plan to mitigate the damage from disasters if a disaster ever happens.